Hello guys, welcome back to the IronManager channel, and today we have a special guest. We have here with us Alberto Nunez. Hi Alberto.
Hey there, everyone. I am really happy to be here. It took us a minute to finally get this together, but I'm glad to be here and we'll have a good time today.
Yeah, I'm very happy, very glad because we were talking offline, and Alberto is one of my role model as a bodybuilder, but also as online coach, and I've been reading a lot of and following a lot of their videos. The 3DMJ team. So for me, it's such an honor to have you here on my channel, and I think that maybe, I mean, most of my followers actually know you, but might be a good idea just to introduce yourself and just talk about what you do and who you are.
Okay, well, this one is going to date me a little bit. I've been basically lifting weights with the goal of getting stronger and putting on as much muscle as possible since 1999. So 16 years old. It was the first, I think, sport slash activity that felt beyond natural to me. And so I loved it from the start. And it's really insane to think that here we are many, many years later. And it's gone from, like gym addict to we need something else, competitive bodybuilder. Oh, wow, we are pro qualified as a natural. And now we live in a world where, not only I consider myself, I guess, like an electronic personal trainer, um, you know, and it's what I do for a living. I get to basically help other athletes who took this a little bit too far themselves achieve their goals. So myself and Team 3D Muscle Journey, that's my squad. We got things rolling in 2009, and basically since then it's we're going on close to a decade of just as a group. I feel contributing and I think positively influencing the drug-free bodybuilding and powerlifting world.
Yeah, I think I remember watching some of your videos. We were talking about that offline as well, like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and I got inspired by your videos to open my YouTube channel, and then to write also Smart Bulk and Filetto. So this is the Italian publication where I basically try to summarize what I've learned also from you guys about personal training and hypertrophy, and how to really plan a workout and a training periodization to stimulate hypertrophy. So it's such an honor, and of course I contacted you roughly 8 weeks ago because last year I competed. I have this kind of a parenthesis. I competed for the first time as a men physique, and I end up qualifying for the Arnold Classic Europe as a man physique, because of course I couldn't compete as a bodybuilder because those guys are clearly not natural. But as a man physique, considering that I've been training for almost 20 years, I kind of managed to place third at the English Grand Prix in London, and then got a invitation for the Arnold Classic Europe. But this year I wanted to go back to the natural bodybuilding stage, and I thought that because I've been traveling a lot and kind of a struggle also to have a structure and basically follow a routine and a schedule, it was a good idea to have a third eye and an expert opinion like yours to get ready for the NGA Universe in Coral Springs in Florida in November. So very happy that I have you as a coach, and be learning a lot already through the email exchange, and now is the first time that we speak over the phone, so it's also good. And maybe we can talk about what we've been doing so far. I mean, I basically done like every 2 weeks like a quick summary of what I've been doing so far in terms of like nutrition, training, and supplementation. I've been explaining already my followers that I've been following a strength program, but if you can talk about that.
Yeah. So, guess what makes our programming unique? Just the whole approach, I think, relative to what is, I guess, more traditional or commonly found out there. I'll start off with the fact that we'll go with even though we are dieting, we're still trying to implement, I feel, a lot of progress into our setup. Basically, we're trying to push early for some progress because at some point you do take a step back, and it's kind of nice to end up at levels in regards to performance that are very similar to your, off-season baseline levels. So we're trying to train hard still, even though our main focus is to remove as much body fat as possible over these next few weeks. So I think when it comes to the diet, I think it's pretty standard. I think it's standard relative to what is out there nowadays. We follow a flexible dieting type of setup where a lot of the little details in the diet, the athlete kind of in charge of, like where they want to place their food, where those foods are coming from. So that stuff is pretty straightforward. I think the training tends to be a bit more novel because it's very natural for us bodybuilders to see ourselves as a collection of body parts. And I think our first introduction to any sort of structure, any sort of periodization is just kind of breaking up the microcycle, breaking up the week. You go from just going to the gym to like, I'll have a biceps day, I'll have a leg day. And even as you get into the more advanced stages, we tend to, when we talk about our physique and our progress, we kind of break things down into body parts. Mm-hmm. However, where there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say conflict, but what we're doing kind of is less conventional because it's more of a full body type of split, mm-hmm. Which is just blasphemy, I think, relative to what is just traditionally found out there. Mm-hmm. And I think what most people would find uncomfortable about it is that perhaps a lot of the localized fatigue that you get from a body part split, when you're on your third back movement, your fourth back movement, mm-hmm. You start to develop a lot of fatigue in that area, good pump, and it's clearly a back day, right? But with our setup, we don't really get too much into that. It's like everything is spread in, throughout the week, throughout one day. One day you'll find many different body parts being hit. And the main reason for this is to basically the volume at the end of the week makes sense, but we distribute it in a way so that we have the most quality throughout the whole week. Mm-hmm. And I think this becomes very noticeable when you are dieting, that it helps recovery perhaps a bit. It helps keep quality of work high. And I think one big one for sure is that you get stronger. You get stronger because you're rehearsing a lot of these movements quite frequently. So it kind of looks non-traditional in that sense, but the goals are exactly the same. We're going to try to maintain, in this case, as much muscle as possible. We are just distributing our work in a way that hopefully lets us at first gain a little bit, and then at the end perhaps maintain as much as possible. Yeah, no, it's true. What I noticed as well, and I mentioned it to you as well, that I was coming from very high volume workouts. I mean, not necessarily kind of the typical bro split. I was doing as well like full bodies or push-pull lower, but with a lot of volume. Because yes, of course, I mean, also according to what you guys have been saying, is that the volume, the total weekly volume is directly proportionate to the experience of a bodybuilder. So I felt like I needed to eat those body parts many times over the week and with a big number of sets. But what I found that with this particular protocol, and I'm retesting my 1 rep max exactly this week, so I'm gonna finish up here in London now. I gain a lot of strength because my main focus at the beginning of every workout was the compound movements. And even if I was not doing like 5 or 6 sets per sessions, or maybe squat or deadlift, maybe 3 or 4, I have definitely more time to recover. I was eating the same muscle more times during the week. And of course, I mean, this has a definitely positive effect also on the central nervous system and the recovery. And now I see, the progress is on in kind of a progressive overload. So it's good because then I guess that in the next phase, or starting from next week, we're gonna do something slightly different. I mean, you mentioned that probably we're gonna go back to hypertrophy or a different split. Can you unveil something about next workout? Well, what we're doing now is very, I still think it's very, if we were to take everything we do and we just put it in a more traditional way, whether it be a lower push pull, an upper lower, I think the bodybuilder that looks at your split initially be like, oh, that's actually, it looks very traditional. So I think what we're going to do is we might keep some of the mixture there in regards to what we are doing. What I will most likely take into consideration is that where we're going next, recovery will probably be hampered furthermore. We're not going to be recovering as well in 4 to 5 kilos from now, right? So it's perhaps best to think ahead and try to take that version of yourself into consideration. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is that we're going to try to still do as much as we can, but at the same time take into consideration that that might change as we get leaner.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why one of the positive as well of this last workout was the fact that I was able to recover quickly from every workout, and definitely didn't feel too tired considering the dieting, because if I look at also the trend of the weight loss, I probably lost the first 3-4 kilos in 4 weeks. So from 88 kilos to 82, 83, it took me like probably 4 or 5 weeks. And now basically the weight loss rate is about 0.5 kilo per week. And it's still going down even if I don't do any cardio. So pretty happy about that. I got now this morning was 80 kilo 0.3. So yeah, I haven't been so light for a long time, because of course, I mean, competing as a man physique last year, I didn't have to go to very low body fat percentage, so I competed at 82, 83 kilos. So 80 kilos, and you can tell from my face, a lot of my friends are telling me, look, I mean, you're definitely, I mean, even if it's 10 weeks out, you're at a good point already. So no, I'm very happy about that, and I think that things are going well, and I'm happy also that I don't have to spend too much time on the treadmill or doing some cardio, so it's good.
Yeah, it's been predictable thus far, but we know, like, it's, you always want to stay humble, because before you know it, all contest preps are like that. They throw something at you that you're like, oh,
yeah,
this will take some figuring out. But yeah, things have been going really, really well, and we want to come in the best shape possible. And of course, the diet takes care of that, but our training has to reflect that as well. And I think that's probably can be the biggest difference with this next leg in the training, is that we will, just take into consideration that, we're going to be, even if we do it in a smart way, by the time you get to those levels of stage lean, things aren't working as wonderful anymore. So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, because the body is tired as well. Now I'm basically working out as a trooper, so I don't even think about what I'm eating. I know my macros, and of course I have planned all my meals every week for every day. So I know that I have those macros. I eat that as a trooper. I just go to the gym. I train hard, and then But when I think about the competition is on the 11th of November, so it's almost like now, because I started suffering a bit, is almost like so far away but I need to keep going, keep moving forward as you're doing, because I guess that you are 3 weeks out from your competition, right?
Yeah. 2.5 now.
Two and a half,
now.
wow. And you look in perfect shape already. So I see that you're doing a lot of shoulder workout now as well on your Instagram, and you're trying to do some specialization work on some body parts, or?
Oh yeah. So it's funny, because the hardest stuff to bring in terms of your physique, whatever the athlete might just genetically have a small deficiency with, it's probably the quickest thing to want to go when you are dieting.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
the things that I know are going to stick, we do a little bit less for that. But then the stuff that is perfectly fine leaving this not so good situation, we'll totally do that. So.
Yeah, same in my case as well. I mean, from my experience, I learned that while I have strong limbs, so I can be defined as a kind of a limb-dominant bodybuilder, my back in particular will lose a lot of mass when I diet. So it's the first thing that is going away, especially kind of the thickness.
Hmm.
Width is okay, but thickness, as soon as I start dieting, is so visible. And of course, when you're dieting, then it's very difficult then to somehow, yeah, you have to play with the illusion. So, bodybuilding is a sport of illusion, so you need to be good also at posing, I guess.
Absolutely. It's the best way to gain 2 kilos of muscle in
Yeah,
just a few weeks is brushing up on the posing, you know.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I should starting as well. And so the federation is the NGA, so National Gym Association. So I thought that because you're American, you might be knowing this federation. And before offline, you were saying that you also competed for the NGA. So why don't you say something about the federation as well?
Yeah, yeah. So the NGA, they've been around for a while. And if you really go back, I think the NGA used to be, I think a lot of people are familiar with the WNBF because it's the bigger, the
Yeah.
biggest natural federation that there is. But the NGA used to be one of the affiliates of it. And so if
Okay.
you competed as an NGA amateur, you became a WNBF pro. So they've been around for a while, for a long, long time. I feel that just in general, this is just to be fair, natural bodybuilding is, I guess, not where I'd like to see it in terms of structure and how standardized it can be.
Yeah.
And clearly, this has been one of those years where it's even broken apart more into different federations.
Mhm.
So the NGA, I think it's a very good federation, but it's also one of those federations that are like, you're big enough and you're big enough and you're big enough. You guys should just like play together, be one federation, and we can be taken as serious as the NPC over here or the IFBB in other countries.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it's a major player. It's one of the three best federations when it comes to natural bodybuilding. And I've had generally very good experiences with not just the NGA, but the owner who just, if you get on the phone with him, will just Andy will talk your ear off, and then also the promoters. I think it gives the promoters a little bit more leeway in creating something. And one last thing, I might do an NGA show the
All
week
right.
after this show,
Oh, cool.
maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So.
Fantastic. Wow. So I may end up seeing you in Coral Springs as well. Are you coming to see the show, or you?
It's kind of up in the air. Like I wouldn't if it's
Okay.
there, it's there. But
Cool.
yeah, I would love to. When you're in shape, you might as well do as many as
Yeah,
possible.
of
And then
course.
GA is it brings a lot of good competition for sure.
But
Yeah.
it's very good what you're saying, because again, coming from Europe, of course, I mean the sport of bodybuilding is not as developed as maybe in the US, and in particular in natural bodybuilding. But I saw the differences as well, because I'm Italian, but I've been living in the UK for 11 years, so I see the difference clearly between Italy and the UK. So here in UK is much more developed compared to Italy or any other countries in Europe. And it's true what you're saying, because one of the reasons why I competed in the IFBB last year was just for fun, just to try something different. So try the men physique class and see also the posing. To be honest, I didn't feel very comfortable with that. But
Yeah.
one of the reasons was also because, especially here in Europe, and things might be definitely different here in the US, is that the stages, the lighting, the photographers are so much better. The organization, the sponsors, what you get also as a prize, instead of like some casein tub, is much better, in those type of stages rather than, and it's such a sad thing, because as you were saying, I mean, these natural federations should join forces rather than attacking each other, and create a strong contingent of natural athletes. Because one of the things that I noticed as well compared to a few years ago is that there are so many more people interested in competing, and so many more natural athletes compared to, let's say, like 5 or 10 years ago. So there's a great opportunity for the natural bodybuilding movement.
Yeah, no, I agree. People at least know it exists. Our systems may be a little bit broken, but I think now more than ever, it's at least known that there's options. But you're very right. I joke about the fact that if I were to win the lottery, what I would do is is basically start my own federation, and even if it doesn't profit for a while, just have one major federation that like basically gives these athletes, I feel, the recognition and the respect that they do deserve.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially by looking also now at some of the pro bodybuilders in other federations. I mean, some of those physique are not even, pleasant to the eye, to say in a very British, polite way.
Yes.
So yeah, we definitely should definitely push for a more aesthetic, natural physique type of model for the young generations as well.
Hey, and tell you what, they're trying to be like us, the other side, the
Hmm.
enhanced side, because with these new divisions that are coming
Oh
up,
yeah,
it's at least acknowledging that somewhere in there was a really good spot, and can we try to go back to that?
that's right.
And that's basically natural bodybuilding to me. It's
Sure,
it's
exactly.
just it looks like art.
Yeah, and but you are famous. You're notoriously famous across the world because of your level of shreddedness or the level of body fat that you managed to reach during contest prep. So, is there any particular secret, or is just like years of experience, or pushing your body to the limit, or is there anything that you like to share?
It's a combination of all those things for sure. It's definitely, yeah, I'd say that I'm, just genetically a bit thinner and leaner. But then also, my first season, I did not get in any kind of good shape. I think my first season, at my best shape, I was, wow, this is kind of embarrassing to say, but I was about 7 or 8 kilos heavier than this when
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
same for me. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So we learned, and I think even with like the best method, it still takes so much hard work. Like I'm at the point now where it's work to progress and get leaner from here. Um, so yeah, it's quite the adventure. I think one thing though I will say is, and this is just because natural bodybuilding is it doesn't get the recognition, the athletes don't get the recognition I feel they deserve.
Hmm.
I feel like I come in very good shape,
Hmm.
very good shape. If there was a scale from 1 to 10, I'd say compared to like the best in the world, I'm like 9.1, 9.2. So certainly a lot of room for improvement. But I've seen guys, especially at the world shows, that that's my goal. Like it's still here in my head,
Hmm.
and I want to look like that. I think the most impactful physique that I've seen in person, well, two, is probably Brian Whitaker.
Hmm.
Brian Whitaker is probably the leanest human being I've ever seen in person.
Hmm.
And then secondly, this was the one time I've done a world show in 2011. His name was Jason Janov.
Hmm.
I've never seen anyone with top to bottom glute striations when they're just relaxing.
Wow.
Just he was lining up
God,
to go on stage, and I'm like, most people have to
God.
flex really hard to look like that. Um, so I do a pretty good job of that, but there's some guys out there that are unbelievable, and people should check them out.
Hmm. Hmm. But what happened? At least, I mean, I see in my environment, in my network, is that when people see guys so shredded, so jacked, they start pointing the finger and say right away, "Oh yeah, they might not be natural. They're definitely on something." And but what I'm trying to tell also to my followers is that. Of course, I had also different reference models when I started. So when I started, I was like 5, 7 kilos heavier than now. That I'm still like 10 weeks out from the competition, and I thought I was like super jacked, super ripped. But then the more competition I did, the more experience I gained, the different reference point I had, and I started comparing myself as well to people that were more jacked, more shredded than me, and say, okay, maybe next year I'm gonna try to move a step forward. And so this is what people should learn rather than pointing the finger. And if they see someone that is bigger and leaner than him, starting saying that they are on steroids.
Yeah, I think my first picture. And this is actually a bodybuilder from the UK. My first natural picture, a picture of a natural athlete that I saw that was close up, and you didn't get a lot of media play for these athletes
Mm-hmm.
back then. Um, his name was Alan Davis, And I remember it was a back double bicep. I had yet to compete at that point yet. All I had done is, a lot of recreational work with a lot of dedication, but still I was a recreational lifter. And I remember looking at that picture and I'm like, oh my, there's no way he's
No
natural.
way,
There's
yeah.
absolute no way, no way.
Yeah.
And fast forward to now, I can say that by a smidge, by a little bit, I've gotten myself to the point where I'm a little bit leaner than Alan Davis was in his era.
Fantastic.
And it's funny how that was. That kid back then that was like, that dude's taking something, would not believe that. So
Yeah.
if you get to work, it's funny what you can accomplish.
Yeah, and it's really like natural bodybuilding is really a sport of patience. Is a matter of time. You need to be very patient. Of course, I mean, when you get to like 5 or 6 years of training experience, you can't pretend that you're gonna put like 5 kilos of lean mass every year. But little by little, drop by drop, you're gonna change your physique, your proportion, your symmetries. So yeah, it's actually very rewarding then, because some of your role models of a few years ago now, you can beat them or you can be better than them. So it's great.
Yeah, it does slow down a lot. It becomes a labor of love to some extent. But when you do figure out something and you take one small step forward, man, is it so rewarding because it wasn't on accident.
Exactly. Yeah, there was so much work behind that. Yeah, absolutely. And another question. I mean, not because I'm scared and I'm afraid of keep dieting, but do you guys? I mean, I've been reading a lot about reverse dieting and eating into a show, and I know there are a few videos also. I remember Eric Helms, but probably you talked also about the reverse dieting. So are we planning? Are we basically navigating now and see what to do when we get close to the show, or are we planning and scheduling already a reverse diet when we go like 4 or 5 weeks from the show?
I think that's going to depend on where we're at. I do feel that there's a point in time where it's almost like saying you can stimulate fat loss instead of just taking a hammer to it. And actually adding some food almost tends to electrify an athlete. You look more consistent, you're fuller, you're bigger, you have energy now. But that is perhaps the one time that I feel the reverse diet model is a valid one. I think that's if you're ready early and you can bring food up slowly. The body looks less fatigued, it looks more consistent. Yeah. And you bring out a lot of details in there that maybe would not have been brought up had you taken the traditional route of just hammering your way in there. I'm not quite that lean yet. I feel where I can actually bring calories up and get the last bit that way. But my friend in town, we're both competing at the same show. He's very close to that. He's a week or two away, I think, from being able to bring food in and get the result that I think you would think you'd get from bringing food down further. So in terms of eating up into a show, if we're in a position where we can, we'll absolutely take it because the physique looks way better. If instead of doing this going into the show with food, you've been doing that the weeks leading into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I remember also sending you a few pictures a few weeks ago about the flatness that I experienced. I mean, we were talking about no pump in these days, and of course, I mean, we're saying my muscle have no soul. You have to go through this phase of the preparation, and probably now we are in the middle of it, where you basically don't really like yourself at the mirror. So you see very flat with muscle with no soul, and so you're looking forward to experience the pump again. So that's why I asked the question about the reverse diet, but. I think it's a good idea to wait and see where we are at, and then decide whether to implement it or not.
Yeah, no, but it's great when you do get to bring food in. I think right now you're in a stage where maybe twice a week for like an hour, you feel like you look right, and then the rest of the week it's like, wow,
God,
right?
yeah, exactly.
And I've noticed that there's been a few times where I've been able to bring food back in early, and it's been nice because I feel like, I can compete every day at this point, So that would be the goal if we can. I would love for us to be able to eat into a show.
Yeah, no, that's good. And also one of the other things that I experienced by, following your suggestions and guidelines is the fact that when you're taking the check-in pictures or the progress picture, just use natural light So don't go under, very kind of a half natty lights.
Yeah.
They make you look so bigger. Because I remember I have some videos of my previous preparation, and I used to go to this gym with this dark light that makes all the shadows, and I look so much better. I felt so much. Sometimes it's useful actually from a psychological perspective. Probably
Yeah.
I have to go back to some of those gyms and take some picture now when I feel completely shit. Because taking picture instead with a bright natural light is a completely different ball game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I don't like taking pictures early in the prep either, in the natural light,
Yeah.
But that off-season light, I guess, if you will, is wonderful. The kind of lighting that makes someone who's 15% look like they're 10.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no to it,
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. That's good. And then, the final question, I don't want to take too much of your time, is, if you have basically 3 tips for someone who is interested in undertaking a journey as a natural bodybuilder, maybe based on your experience, just, 3 primary tips.
Yeah, I go back to what I did maybe the first 8, 9 years of training as a bodybuilder. And had I just not been stubborn and, when you're in your infancies, you assume that you know a little bit more than you actually do know, or maybe you're not ready to admit that. I think had I got guidance a bit earlier, I would have been doing so much better earlier on, and I think right now I'd be in a slightly better position. So that was my issue. I think my first season, I tried to do it by myself, didn't work out. Second season, I hired my friend Lane Norton, and he got me into phenomenal shape. And looking back now, I was like, wow, I was surrounded with so many good people. I had all these great resources, but I wanted to figure it out myself, and that probably delayed some things a little bit. So, yeah, be resourceful, use your resources, and try to. If you have the luxury, I think guidance is the appropriate thing to do early on. My car breaks down. I'm not going to try to fix that. Yeah, go take it to a professional because I can't. So that'd probably be the first one. I think the second one would be, be a little bit more patient than you think you need to be. And definitely give yourself a chance. I think a lot of guys get to that 3rd, 4th year of training, things slow down drastically, and they think they're done. I thought I was done many times in terms of progress, but I stuck through it, and there was more. Sure. And I think the last one would be just have a lot of fun with this. Try to make it as fun as possible, because it's going to be something that you want to do for a long time. That's the only way you're going to get these extreme results. Yeah. So you might as well be happy and enjoy your grind, because it's going to take about a decade before you probably look the way you want to look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when I competed for the first time was after 11 years of training. Well, now there's this tendency of, wanted to compete right away, maybe after 6 months or 1 year of training. But yeah, as we were saying before, is a sport of patience, and you see definitely the result after years of training. You can't just step on stage after just a few months of going to the gym, for sure. Absolutely.
You can. They'll take your money and they'll let you go on stage, but it won't look right.
No, that's true.
But yeah. It's very similar to you. I didn't. I think I trained for 7 years before I decided I am ready. And that's probably the one thing I did do right as a young man. I got a lot of things wrong, but I was working for a while at least.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, thank you so much again. Again, for me, it's been an honor talking to you on this video call. I guess that while we carry on with the preparation, maybe we do another one when we get closer to the competition, just to update on the progresses, and hopefully I'm gonna be even leaner than now, and readier than now. But thank you so much for your time. Has been great, and really good to talk to you.
I appreciate it, and I look forward to being on here at some point again.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alberto.